Welcome to the Suwannee County Commission meeting for December 21st, 2021. At this time, I'd get Mr. Fleming to do the prayer and the pledge for us.
Let us pray. Our Father, we come this afternoon thanking you for all your blessings. Father, we thank you for bringing us through this whole year and keeping us safe from all hurt, harm, and dangers, and keeping us in the path of righteousness. And we pray, God, that you bless us this night. Come the end of the year, that our last meeting for the year, that you watch over and protect us, bless us, give us strength, help us do the will of the county, help us do what's right in your eyesight. Forgive us for our sins, and first of all, and oh Father God, make a way for us out of no way. For we lean and depend on you, we trust in your holy name, that everything will be all right. Be with those that are sick among us, the afflicted, the bereaved families. Touch every one of our parents and our grandparents, our children and our grandchildren, and we pray that you watch over us and protect us all. Father, we ask these blessings in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving along, item number 1 is approval of the minutes from the December 7th, 2021 regular board meeting. Do I have any discussion or a motion for approval?
I'll offer a motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stapleton, second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Moving along to the consent agenda, pulling item number 4. Does anybody else have anything?
Mr. Chairman, I think I got to understand, but just for the sake of the public too, I think 17 and 18, I was looking over the agenda. I think it's self-explanatory, but I just would like for those who, just for clarification.
Okay, so item 17 and 18. Okay, anything else, anybody else? So we're gonna, on the consent from items 2 and 3, 5 through 16.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Land. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 4, approval of termination of construction agreement with Solar Construction LLC for work associated with County Road 137 collection transmission utility extensions. Mr. Hancock, did you want to say something on this?
Hancock, 6135 Breeden Road. I just was curious as what position this puts us in, or how much of a time delay is going to be involved in put this out for bid. Will it affect any, or will it create any issues for True Leave or anyone else who will connect into the system? I mean,
Mr. Chairman, I can answer that question.
Mr. Harris?
I think Mr. Pravat and I have both had conversations with True Leave. Their timeline has changed slightly, and they are aware of what we're doing as well. So I don't envision any problems with this at all.
you know, the bidding process can go forward?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Anybody else? Not, do I have a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Land, second by Commissioner Stapleton. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item number 17, authorized to procure Cat C4 asphalt roller from Ring Investments utilizing Florida Sheriff's Association in the amount of $14,408.67. Can we just do 18?
Yes.
Do them together?
Yes.
And number 18, authorization to purchase paving machine in the amount of $167,459. Mr. Fleming.
Mr. Chairman, I think this be directed to Mr. Harris. I think, as I was looking over it, we gonna be having this equipment that we got some people that can run that machinery and everything for paving.
We are going to get those men trained to run that equipment. We've already discussed that. In fact, this is the same machine that a neighboring county is using now. And they were trained to operate the machinery. Suwannee County used to have a paving machine.
I remember.
Used to pave themselves, but for whatever reason, and that was many years ago, they stopped doing that. I'm not interested in seeing the road department getting into full-time paving business. Now, if we were staffed up and we had plenty of money, that might be great, but we don't have that kind of money. What we have realized, though, is in the past several years, we pay contractors quite a bit of money to go out and do these Band-Aid jobs or patch jobs. We talked recently about County Road 250. A couple of years ago, you remember we spent, I think it was $80,000 to do little Band-Aid repairs on County Road 49. County Road 137 needs repairs. We've got a lot of money budgeted for those repairs. The County Road 250 project, I took the repair list that we had put together with the dimensions on it. I sent it over to North Florida Professional Services, and we came up with an estimate. They provided an estimate of about $35,000 for asphalt. Well, I think we put $300,000 in that project for those repairs. So if you take that one and County Road 137 and some work on 10A that we budgeted, we can usually pay for this machine and pay for the asphalt. The county has historically done all of the very labor-intensive work anyway, which is cutting the asphalt out, digging out the bad road bed and replacing it and putting density on it with lime rock. That's the real time consuming part. So we've paid companies to come in and put the asphalt down, which they do fairly quickly. And we paid a premium because those small projects are, I think, more of an annoyance to the big companies that would rather be doing several miles of paving at one time. So this will give us an opportunity to save some money. We won't use the machine every day. We'll take care of our repairs, and some of those show up, every year. We've got a certain number of repairs that we can do.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything else for motion to approve. The commission don't have anything to say.
Mr. Chairman, I just got a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Fleming.
I don't have a problem with the items. I just had a question for Mr. Harris, since we're talking about patchwork. On some of these chip seal roads, I know that there's several where there's heavy equipment, semi-trucks that are accessing residential, their homes, or chip seals where now we've chip sealed the road and those roads are picking up some truck traffic. Is there, I know there's a way to do this, and we may need to talk to North Florida, but to maybe use this equipment to asphalt a strip. I know we'd have to probably dig down a little bit so that it was an even transition, but so that chip seal doesn't get consistently torn up. Yeah, because of the pivoting of the heavy equipment. Can we use it for those situations as well?
We can try to come up with a solution for that.
Just tearing the road.
What we've done recently is we've tried to talk to the people that are driving semis in and out of their yards every day for work. As you described, that is the problem. When they've got that axle shifted too far forward and they make a turn and they're dragging an axle sideways across the surface, it rips it all to pieces. So we're trying to communicate with those people and trying to get them to do something different. We're putting wider driveways there where they can make wider turns. I don't see why we can't try to come up with a plan and see if we can asphalt a section in front of those.
Just
To
20 feet or 30
help
feet.
avoid the problems that, the other thing that we've run into, honestly, is sometimes you have farmers that work on their fields and they'll drag a plow. They won't get that thing lifted all the way and they'll make a turn out there and those discs will just dig right in and rip them all to pieces. Now it would do the same thing with asphalt. So really, we're trying to communicate with people, but I think that will help with the semis where we know the people have been living and driving trucks in and out.
And,
Second. I'll second Mr. Fleming's original motion for approval.
Okay, I got a motion by Mr. Fleming, Commissioner Fleming, a second by Commissioner Land. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 19, a presentation by Ms. Ellie Myers.
Good evening. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Name and address, please, ma'am.
Yes, Ellie Myers, 21177 174th Street. I spoke 2 meetings ago, and I won't review all of that information, so I'm going to try and condense a little bit here. The Florida Department of Transportation Wildlife Management Program includes guidelines for nominating natural areas of wildflowers for special management to increase the abundance and visibility of these wildflowers. The program has laid the groundwork for reduced and carefully timed mowing to boost pollinator habitat while protecting the biodiversity needed to sustain healthy ecosystems and wildlife populations. Through the adoption of the Wildflower Resolution, which you all received a copy in your packet, counties and municipalities can nominate the FDOT maintained roadsides within their boundaries as wildflower areas. The district wildflower coordinator, and that is Larry Porter from Lake City, and he's on vacation. So he said make his excuses here. He's available by text if I need anything. We offer that. Once the district maintenance engineer approves the nomination, a management plan for the area is crafted and turned over to the district maintenance yard of the contractor maintaining the area. So any questions about that or what I presented 2 meetings ago? We have 66 counties and 36 have already adopted this resolution. This resolution will not interfere with the regulatory mandate of mowing the 6 feet immediately next to the road. It's the upslope that we would look to retain those wildflowers. And myself and as a volunteer, what I would be doing is looking to be sure that the signs that the Wildflower Foundation puts up, be sure that that's well maintained. We also, along with the Native Plant Society, we're watching for invasives. You know, a lot of times it's the lawnmowers that are spreading the invasive plants around. But the intent, of course, is to just grow lots and lots of pretty wildflowers. So, by closing arguments?
Could I ask one question?
Yes.
In the resolution, it just states State Road 51 and Highway 129.
Well, I had put that in there, but that would be determined by the Florida Department of Transportation, and I believe Mr. Harris. Not sure about that, but,
Can I ask you a question?
yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, is that okay?
Mr. Harris.
I was thrilled that it was left blank, to be honest with you.
Oh.
Because there isn't one road. There are several where we've got, you said the upslope. If you're talking about the back slope, the one that's the greatest distance from the road, we've got a lot of roads where we try to mow around those wildflowers anyway. But I'm gonna be honest with you. When I first looked at this, I had some concerns for public safety because of line of sight, particularly near intersections. If you look at the hood of an average vehicle, it's more than 6 feet long. They pull up to an intersection. We've got some things that people call wildflowers that grow 4 feet tall and real quick, like in the late part of the summer. And it's difficult to see around those unless people pull out into the road. We've got a lot of roads with very narrow right-of-ways, and that's a problem. Having said that, I'm a huge proponent of wildflowers. I've said to everyone that during the season that this is a missed opportunity for all these people that drive from Florida all the way to the mountains to look at the leaves changing every year. They don't even know that flowers exist here in Suwannee County in the spring. So there's lots of opportunity, but it's difficult for me to endorse a standard one-size-fits-all because our roads aren't all the same size. It's easier to consider preserving areas on the back slope. It's easy for us to identify a lot of the areas where the flowers are and avoid those, because it takes us so long to make a cycle of mowing around the county. A lot of these flowers are in full bloom by the time we get there, and it's easy enough for us to maneuver around them, and we do. The people that run those tractors, the mowing tractors, there aren't enough hours in the day to stay caught up, so they avoid those areas when they can. But there would be several roads. This has a single blank on this resolution. The resolution doesn't cause many heartburn because it doesn't establish an absolute standard or a mandate. I think it leaves some discretion to us, and I don't mind working with our people and make sure they understand that we're trying to preserve what flowers we can, at the same time trying to continue to keep it as safe as we can.
Yes, and I'm hearing your point. In the packet, there was actually research done by the FDOT on the safety issue. You know, one of the complaints was the tall native plants could obstruct the view, and that I believe is in your packet. And they found that there were no, and it was insignificant, okay, what was found with that. Okay, so there has been some research that was done on the accidents there. And I totally agree with you. You know, right now, our objective is to get the board to approve the resolution. And then we go into committee, go into having meetings as to what areas, how big an area. You know, I just put in, I live right off of State Route 51, I put that in there, and as I drive 129, you know, I'm thinking this can use a little beautification, but that would all be determined by Mr. Porter from the FDOT, I believe yourself, and the Wildflower Foundation, of which I'm just a volunteer, but their liaison person would come on board with the approved resolution.
Yeah, one thing you'll realize is these state roads have much wider right-of-ways than we have. So they've got a lot more room for wildflowers to grow and without interfering with line of sight in many cases. Our difficulty is with lots of different right-of-way widths, and some of them are extremely narrow. But I don't mind working with someone that comes forward with proposals after this resolution is done, and let's see if we can work together and preserve as many of these areas as possible.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I saw in the resolution whereas it states State Road 51 and Highway 129. Are you just asking us to support the cause of what you're wanting to do with the
Yes.
state? Because that's not under our jurisdiction.
Yes, and that, again, I filled that in because I thought that would be more, you know, a little bit better than just leaving blank spaces there, just as a suggestion. That would have to go to committee or task force or whatever to resolve exactly what roads we would begin with. You know, you got to start somewhere, and it would be small, and then based on the success or lack thereof, expand. You know, if you like it, let us know, and continue with that. If you recall, when I spoke 2 meetings ago, the counties, the 36 counties that have put this in place have realized a 30% reduction in their mowing costs. And on average, that is $70,000 realized for the taxpayers of Suwannee County. And you know, that's significant, I believe, in this day and age when all of our taxes went up. And so there would be a savings there. And I totally empathize with what our mowers have to go through, you know, and keeping up.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I don't have a problem with it as long as we're not locked into certain roads, certain widths, you know, as long as the county's still got some say in
Absolutely.
what goes on here, that we're just not mandated to go. I mean, I love wildflowers too, I like to see them too, but, you know, there's times where it's doable and times where it's not. So I'm fine with it like it is.
Mr. Chairman, I was gonna say something along those lines. I mean, I'm fine with it too, not at the expense of human life. If our guys deem an intersection needs to be 12-foot mowed, then I want to mow 12 foot at that intersection to protect life, human life. But you know, looking at this map, there's a lot of counties in 30-something, you said, have adopted this or something very similar to it. And as an heavy in ag, I want to do our part to help the pollinators. Nobody's talked about them, but I know that the pollinators play a vital role in agriculture. And I mean, if it's not going to cost us any money and, you know, we can have some say-so, I'm good with it as well.
Go ahead, Mr. Stokes.
I would, I mean, I think we're all in support of it. It's just trying to find that balance between safety and looking after the wildflowers. And I think, I mean, since I've been on the board, the county's already been doing a very good job of mowing around what we can. I mean, because trust me, we hear from folks, don't mow the wildflowers. But then you'll hear from folks that say the wildflowers lifespan has passed away and it's time to clear the right of way. So there's a line there, but I think we're already, this just kind of establishes more of we're in support of what we've already kind of started. I'm saying, can it be improved on? Absolutely. Can always work together and make things better. So I feel positive.
I'm fine, I'm good with it.
Okay. If I can speak to the farmers, I sent you all an email, but Suwannee County includes almost 170,000 acres of farmland, or 7% of the entire state. We generate 12% of the entire state's farm receipts from agricultural products sold. Now, this is what was interesting to me. Agricultural impact on employment was 36%. More than a third of employment coming from our county is for farmland, and 90% of crops need pollination. These wildflowers are great pollinators, and so essentially supporting over a third of our workforce here. And I believe in the information that I sent you, yes, the farm-related income decreased 43% from 2012 to 2017. And this wasn't from less farms. And this all comes from the latest information I was able to find is the 2017 census of agriculture for Suwannee County. And so support those farmers, definitely, with the pollinators. And think of the cost. I mean, there really is no cost for this program. There is a savings for this program. And looking at our snowbirds, you know, I know our biggest product is chicken here, but I don't think most good people are coming here for chickens. In our frenetic world, going to the country should bring us much visual ambiance and stimulation, which brings an escape away from our busy, polluted big cities and brings visitors peace. So to support, you know, a well-organized wildflower program is to commit to the progress most find imperative. People have to get away in this day and age. And coming here, think of the snowbirds too. Could some of them stay longer because it's just so pretty here they can't bear to leave? And you know, I was born and raised in Ohio. It's pretty gray up there. And coming down, not like the snowbirds do, they come down at Thanksgiving and leave, you know, sometime in the spring. But actually coming down sometime in the spring when that terrible weather is not clearing up north, just to see our wildflowers. I think it's a great opportunity for more people coming to our area just for the beauty of it. You know, I've been in healthcare for 50 years, I hate to admit that, but there's a book, very old book, and it's called What If Disney Ran Your Hospital? And it was quite an entertaining read, because essentially it said, now think of a hospital, everyone's been in the hospital, what a miserable experience it is. You know, I say it's incentive not to get sick, with all due respect to our hospitals. But their answer was to make your hospital a magical place. And what I'm proposing and asking you to sign in that resolution is, let's make Suwannee County the native, natural Disney World of North Central Florida.
We appreciate it. I think we're all in agreement on this as far as the resolution.
I have more.
As long as we're all in agreement that the county has still got some say in what we're doing and we're not tiring our hands in the mowing of these right-of-ways, so I think we're all good with it. Mr. Brevet, do I need to read this resolution?
No, sir.
So do I have any discussion or a motion to approve?
I'll offer a motion, Mr. Chairman.
I second, Mr. Chairman.
That's a motion by Commissioner Stapleton, second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Let's see. We got a couple additional agenda items. Item number 2 is being pulled for another meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
were you gonna do those before general business?
You can go back to these.
We got 20 and 21.
Oh, I'm sorry, missed that. Item number 20, discuss with possible board action lease of commercial solid waste cans. Mr. Harris.
With the new rates, we've had some changes as we anticipated. We've got some customers that are contracting with other companies now for the commercial lease can business. And we were asked if we would be interested in these cans that are coming back that we own, renting those back to some of the vendors to take care of those customers that are switching. And if you were to do that, you would need to do that as an advertised request for proposals if you wanted to lease those cans out. Otherwise, we take them back and they sit at the landfill. That was a request that was made. I'm just bringing it to you to see what your thoughts are on that.
Mr. Chairman, how many are we getting back, Mr. Harris? I mean, is this?
Well,
20?
we won't really know until those new rates are taking place in
January.
January, so I don't know. We might have 20, we could have 30. I don't really know, to be honest with you. We just have to wait and see.
So we're just.
They're cans that we have paid for, but rather than let them sit out there and just sit.
sitting around.
Yeah, if you wanted to entertain proposals from vendors that could put them to use, you could rent those to them for that purpose to service the customers.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
It- And I guess this question was asked of you, but you may not know the answer, Mr. Harris, but is it advantageous for us to lease over, I mean, if we're talking about 30 cans, and, I mean, what's the advantages for the county over leasing versus just offering them up as surplus to sale? If they're coming back to us and we're losing that customer from that can, do we need to maintain ownership? I mean, I don't know, it's a question of, is there an advantage for us to maintain ownership and lease them, or is it?
Well, since I don't know because they'll be in different sizes, and I really don't know what we're gonna end up with by the time we get into January. There may be some that we don't need right now, that we might have to try to add into a collection site later, and maybe we don't necessarily wanna get rid of them now. We typically, as you know, when ours get really old, we rebuild the bottoms of them, and we've done that in some cases twice before we finally get rid of them. By then, the sides are worn out too. So I don't know if we want to get rid of all of them, and I really can't give you the numbers yet because we don't have the numbers yet. We won't really know until, like I said, we get into January and find out how many of them aren't going to be in use any longer.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
These are the cans that's for the commercial businesses, correct?
That's
But
correct.
they're the same cans that we use in our
In our
drop-off
collection
sites.
That's correct.
I mean, would we just rotate them out there as needed, if they're still in good shape, I'm saying?
Well,
I mean, for the amount of
if
sites.
we have bad ones, sure, we can, if we've got cans in our sites that we need to pull out, we can put these in there. I'm just saying that once we have reconciled what we need, right now, we've got the numbers out there that we need. And/or we're also repairing the bottoms on a regular basis. So you're gonna have some where that be the case, where you're gonna repair them.
I guess I didn't really understand if we had any in surplus right now that was sitting there ready to go if we needed to swap them out, or if these would be backups for what we have.
Yeah, I can answer that when I know what the sizes are that we end up with, the smaller ones, because a lot of these are gonna be smaller containers, and you're not gonna have those little 4-yard containers in your collection sites. We've had to switch all those over to the 8-yard containers to manage the volume. So we don't wanna put a lot of these little ones out there because they just take up too much space and they're in the way. We need the larger ones. So I think a lot of these customers that are canceling are the ones with these small containers. These were people that didn't want to drive to a collection site, so they had leased these small containers. And now they're getting rid of those in many cases.
I would just prefer to sell them, honestly. I'm just,
If it's a, sorry.
no, go ahead.
If it's 4 yards and we do not really put 4 yards in our collection sites, we do 8s in the collection sites.
Most of them are gonna be 8s.
So anything less than what smaller than what we need, honestly, I just assume about just sell them, be done with them. I mean, if we lease them and the leaseor says, hey, the leasee says, hey, we don't want this, can anymore, y'all come get it or whatever, then there's a responsibility on our part to, I would assume, we could word the lease however we wanted to, I would guess, but I'd just assume sell it and be done with it. We don't need it for the collection sites, those particular sizes. That's just my thoughts. I would kind of agree with Mr. Stapleton on that.
That's gentlemen.
I'll just add to that, Mr. Chairman. You answered my question. I didn't know what size containers we had left over, the 4 yarders and the ones you're saying it's not being used.
Well, I won't know.
Okay.
Because we offer, in the commercial business, we offer all of those sizes. We've got
Gotcha.
4s, 6, and 8s, and, I don't have any idea yet how many might cancel and that we end up with. There could be 4s, there could be 6s or 8s out there, and I really won't know until, actually probably until we get maybe even into February, to be honest with you.
Just for discussion, I don't have a problem leasing or selling or whatever we don't need.
Mr. Hardy.
Tommy Hardy, Pop Sanitation, and our office is in the original building. I can't remember the address right on me. The reason why we came to y'all about leasing was a couple of reasons. I think this morning we had 48 customers that were changing over January 1 with Suwannee County. And in talking to some of the staff, they're short-staffed, so now they're gonna have to go out there, get that can, bring it back, haul it to wherever y'all keep them at. And then we're bringing a can in. We can bring a can in all day long. But our thought is if we leased it for a 2-year period from y'all, that way if y'all decided that, wait a minute, we want to get back in this business, we want to do this, y'all don't have to go buy new stuff. So we were trying to look out for all sides in it. And with the lease, if it comes up to that, me personally, it's better for us to buy it. But what we were trying to do is, again, what's best for all of us. But in a lease at a $30 a month or $40 a month lease, you're actually going to pay more. We're actually going to give you more than what you paid for the cans. So just want to throw that out and tell you why we came to y'all on it, look at it. We can do it either way. I got 18 coming tomorrow, so it's whatever works best for y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy.
Thank you, sir.
I'm good either way. Sell them, lease them, it's fine with me. Mr. Harris, you're asking for a request for proposals, is what you're doing on the lease?
Well, what I would do, if we go that route, is I would advertise for proposals from vendors that are interested in leasing the cans from us. And then we would know, we'd have some idea.
So could we not do the lease or request for the proposal on that, bring it back, and then decide, do we want to sell them or do we want to lease them?
Sure. Then you'll have some information.
I'm good with that.
I'll tell you what, in this market, if you leased them for a year or two and generated some revenue and then sold them, if they keep going up the way they're going up, it is unbelievable what's going on. Some of these things have doubled in price in the last year. It's terrible.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sir.
how long do those bottles last?
It depends on what the customer's putting in there, but I can't tell you how many years they will last, but I can tell you that we've always been in the business of cutting the floors out and replacing them when they go bad. If the sides are not torn up really bad, we'll just replace the floors. And we've got cans that we've replaced the floors in them twice over a 10 or 12 year period.
Oh.
It's when they start tearing the sides up, where those arms slide in there to lift them, that you finally just say, okay, I need to retire these.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I agree with that. I think the one I've got, one of my locations has been there 10 or 11 years, and I've had to replace the bottom one time.
Mr. Chairman, I'm good either way. I mean, I'm not adamant one way or the other, whatever works best. You know, whatever you other four want to do, I'll be good with it. I just assume settle them, but if y'all want to lease them, I'm fine with it.
And that might be the way to go, because like you said, the price of things, and also if we needed them back, getting someone to build one, and I think, what we talked about before, it's hard to get product right now.
Even if you had to get it back and put a bottom in it, it'd still be way cheaper than buying a new one the way it is now.
Absolutely.
Correct. Yep.
So I just say we put it out there for proposal and see what the lease, or I guess we can put whatever terms we need in on the lease as far as how we want to handle that. The term and all the conditions that go with it, so I would be good with that. So I'm listening for a motion, or
Is it a motion or just a consensus?
is it just, you need a,
I'm fine with a consensus.
final good? Thank you, have it, Mr. Harris.
Okay.
Moving along to item 21, discuss timber harvesting on fire station site. Mr. Harris.
Well, it's been interesting since the last meeting. Commissioner Landabout and I have spoken about a mechanism for trying to obtain information. Someone in my office has made several phone calls to people that are in the business of timber harvest. I've spoken about a timber cruise. We talked about cost per ton. Commissioner Fleming and I were on site out there and had a gentleman show up that does not just the removal of the trees and establishing the value of that, but also the grubbing, pulling the stumps out. So at this point, I think we just need to write our own standard specifications so that when we get numbers, we're getting numbers from people that are all offering proposals on the same thing. We received one response. It's sealed. It's in an envelope here. That's all we have at this point. I wasn't sure when I put it on the agenda if we might have 3 or 4, written proposals. But this time, if we can agree that we're going to go ahead and put a spec together and then go ahead and advertise it, we might generate information. That information would go to the clerk's office. That's where this one went, with the clerk's office, the clerk's window, so no one, the county staff has seen the number. But that's up to the board, make a decision on us doing that.
When you say put together, you're talking about whether they're just gonna cut the timber and pile the brush, or they're gonna stump it, or?
Well, ultimately, what needs to occur is the trees need to be harvested. We need to realize the value of the trees. That's number one. Number two, the stumps have got to be removed, but they really only need to be removed on about half of that property. So I have never envisioned us going in there and grubbing the entire property, because half of that, on the back side of that big hill, it isn't gonna be in our way if there are stumps out there. From there forward, to the west, stumps do need to be removed. What I would do is write a specification that requires, one, identifying the value of the trees so that the county realizes that value. Have them prepare a separate line, like we do on a lot of our bids. Even on roads, we'll have, there might be 10 or 15 lines in there where they have to break everything out, so that if we make an adjustment, we know what that number is ahead of time. So I would require a separate figure for those companies that are in the business of also removing stumps, get a separate number for that. And a lot of these companies are not gonna be in that business. So we would provide for companies to offer numbers on what they do and what they specialize in, and then if you had some that do it all, that's okay too. We would provide for them to give us a number on that, and then we bring the information back, and the board makes a decision once we have that information.
So how would you handle the one you already have now?
It's being handled by the clerk's office, it's sitting there. Now, what we can do is contact them and share that same specification with them, prior to that time. And they would be open here just like we do regular bids, at a date and time certain.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I got a couple things. First off, is my thought on the whole deal is, let's do like Mr. Harris said, let's do them separate though. Bid it, put it out to bid, or declare the timber surplus, however we need to do it. Suwannee County's got 10 acres of timber to sell, parcel number, blah, blah, blah. We want a per ton price on the pulpwood and a per ton price on the chip and salt. And put it out to public. So any loggers that want to come in there and bid it, they're gonna all bid on the per ton basis, not lump sum. That's, in my opinion, a better way to sell wood. So that's RFP or RF, whatever you call it, number one, bid number one. And then secondly, you bid, you say, hey, behind that, I mean, they can go look at what needs to be done. These guys in this business of popping stumps, they can go look at it without it being clear cut. They know what it's gonna look like after the timber's cut, and just put in there, once bid number two is solicitation for bid to remove debris, pop the stumps, pile and burn the remaining 5 acres, or the front 5 acres of parcel number blah, 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 which is 10 acres in total, and maybe we flag it or whatnot to where we want the stumps removed to. The back part, we talk about replanting in a year or two after it sets out, but I would do it separately. I think if you bulk them together, you're gonna have some folks that are qualified to go do it, some are qualified that may not have the equipment, to go do a piece that small, or may not be interested. So if you do it separately, you're gonna get more competitive bids if you bust them out separately.
Yeah, because if you put it, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr.
if you put it together, then someone's gonna subcontract that out and drive that price up.
And you just bid them separately, you're gonna get more bids on the removal than you will on the harvest. And not many folks that are gonna be harvesters are gonna wanna go in there behind it and deal with the clearing. That's not what they do.
They're gonna move.
They're moving on with their equipment to harvest.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't have a problem with that.
I do as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's what we'll do.
My second question is for Mr. Harris. I've had 2 people from the public call me, and I'm curious. I asked you this myself, but I never heard back from you. After we, board here, all agreed 5-0 not to spend any money on that property until we harvested our timber, 8 days later, we got a crew out there clearing and trimming. So how did that happen?
I sent the crew out there to not take trees down and clear. We haven't cleared the property.
No.
Here's what we did. I'm gonna answer the question.
I know what you did. I looked at it.
I'm gonna answer the question so that everyone else knows what I've done and why. What's been done out there is for the purpose of creating a topo map for our site plan. That property isn't flat. It's got extreme drops. It's got an extreme drop from the south to the north, an extreme drop from where we're gonna build from the east to the west. And we're gonna topo that with a topo map that shows the elevation changes, and we're gonna go ahead and start designing the cut and or fill that needs to occur for the foundations and our parking slopes and our drainage system. What I envision is the drainage going back to the east, down that 40-foot drop to the bottom, but the septic tank and drain field will have to go back to the west. And that's just part of the preliminary work that needs to occur on that site before we start actually designing all of it. So the little bit of mowing that we did out there with the wood mower and the tree limbs, I went out there and looked at it after you called me. And what I actually envisioned was that they had done a whole lot more than I had instructed them to do. But in fact, they only did basically what I told them to do, and they left a little bit out. But the tree limbs on the 2 oak trees, will you pull right in? I think anybody who had been out there before knows that the limbs were dragging across the windshield of a pickup truck trying to get in there. And I told them to limb that up high enough where we could get in there with trucks and equipment.
Well,
And they did that. And then they used a wood mower.
they did a great job.
They got about maybe 5 acres of the brush, and that's it.
Well, I'm not gonna sit here and deny the fact that I was extremely upset whenever, I don't expect you to do everything I ask you to do, but I do expect you to do everything that a 5-0 tells us ask you to do. And I was extremely upset, and I'm still a little upset that after we said don't do anything, and if you needed a topo, then we should have asked for it, and we would address that, but whenever one of the loggers calls me and says, hey, what are y'all doing? Why are you got 2 tractors out here, bucket truck, and inmates running chainsaws clearing when we're fixing to make a mess out here? Well, y'all are wasting our money. And I was like, I really don't really know what we're doing. We instructed Mr. Harris not to do anything until we evaluated the timber. 8 days later, we got a whole crew and a flock of equipment out there. So was I upset? Absolutely. Am I still upset? Yeah, I'm disappointed. And that the way that was handled.
Well, you may be disappointed, but my interpretation of what occurred in the last meeting was that we were not going to go ahead and bid the harvesting of the trees, because you wanted instead to get quotes from timber companies, which I didn't have a problem with at all. But I never interpreted what occurred in the last meeting to mean that we couldn't go out there and continue to proceed with trying to prepare our site plans to get the project underway. I mean, I've got another commissioner sitting right next to you that's willing or interested in us getting the thing done. And I haven't been instructed by this board to not do anything out there on that property, period. We had a conversation about harvesting timber and grubbing. What was on the agenda in the last meeting was actually a request to be authorized to bid the clearing and the grubbing, the stump removal.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we got into the conversation about harvesting trees and how to go about getting a number for that.
And in that conversation, you stated that we could do most of this ourselves, but we were gonna entertain what a bid would look like. And I think that this board, I know that this board said, let's don't do anything until we harvest the trees. Let's don't spend any money, any labor until we harvest the trees, so we don't wanna have to go about there and repeat clean up a mess that the timber harvest is gonna do anyway. Now, if we need to do topos to expedite the fire station, I'm on board, let's get it done. But to be out there piling up pine trees, rotten pine trees, and removing those with dump trucks and hauling them off, trimming limbs with a bucket truck, having inmates knock out little pines with a chainsaw, we're going backwards. I mean, that is wasteful.
I haven't seen any of that. What I did see.
I saw it.
Well, you may have seen something that I didn't see, but what I saw out there is a little pile of what looks like 1 or 2 little skinny pine trees that were right at the entrance where I had them cut those oak tree limbs back so that we could get in there with a truck. But I didn't see any harvesting of
about
trees
2
at
rows
all.
of pine trees, inmates running chainsaws. I was there when they did it.
Well, I didn't see that.
Nevertheless, I put it on record, Mr. Chairman, my disappointment. I'm good, move on.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Lemon.
I can't sit here and not say something concerning the issue that, I'm ready to move forward. But what I saw was, I went on that site, I'm completely satisfied, and it explained to me that, talking about the topo and the things that would, the only pile that I saw, there was a little small rotten logs, maybe 4 or 5 logs that, and I did talk to the guy that came out there with his logging company. He was saying that he did ask about a pile of oats, and he said the most of your production is up in there by those oaks, and the smaller pines would be less, and he did give a price on some of it, what it would be, and I think he's going to submit a bid. Have he submitted the bid? I don't know, but I'm completely satisfied with what I saw. I didn't see it before, but I saw it after the fact. Now, I didn't see a big pile of debris out there that was, I saw where trucks were coming in, if they would come in, I would want my vehicle scratched up. The entrance, when you come to those double gates, and the entrance coming up in there. But I also saw some deer in there. I saw some deer. Well, for the hunter to go out there, but I didn't see that, and I just wanted to clear and say what I saw out there,
Thank you, Mr.
which
Lemon.
I'm proud of.
Anybody else?
I'll just say, I know there was a lot of controversy around this fire station, but I talked to Chuck Brandon last week and, just catching up for the holidays and talking about some of these lines of, districts that are gonna be moving, which is a big concern of mine, but, he did ask about that fire station. Now, I'm ready for us to move forward with this thing and get the pricing of the timber, get it cleared. Let's get things moving out there, because those guys went to bat for us, they worked hard to help us get that funding, and when they start asking about it, we'll know where we're at with it, I want to be able to give them an answer.
Well, just my 2 cents on it. I did think we had an agreement to wait until we got the timber sale done. I guess if we were gonna do, or we needed to go out there and clear something to have a topo map done, I think we should have discussed that. I don't have a problem doing it. I just think going forward on some of these items that we're dealing with, I guess we're just gonna have to be more clear on what direction we want Mr. Harris to go.
I won't disagree.
So,
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
yes, sir, Mr. Harris.
This is something that was said about replanting. I wasn't aware that we were gonna replant out there.
I said we'd address it in a couple of years. I don't know that we need, you can't replant anyway for, the property needs to lay out. So that's not even the discussion we need to have today of talking about replanting anything. We can sell it, we can replant it, I don't care what you do with the back 5.
Well, the reason I asked that question is because the gentleman that was out there, that had come out to, I guess he's preparing a number for us for the removal of those trees. He talked about how young the trees were, and the fact that they were only, I think in his words, 10 or 12 years old, and they needed to grow quite a bit before they were actually gonna be worth anything.
Trees that are there now?
That's what he said.
Those are not 12-year-old
That's what he told us
You
yesterday.
misunderstood him.
No, he's.
Those are
Well,
20.
that's what he said.
Those are 20, they've already been harvested one time.
They were thin.
Those are 20, there's chipping saw there. There's
Yeah,
no way that.
they were thin. Listen, I'm gonna be the first to admit that I don't know anything about the timber business, but I'm telling you that that's what the man told us yesterday. We're standing there. Now, my question is, if you're going to try to realize value on those things, and I don't know anything about the value of trees, another option would be to leave those on the back side of that hill until they grow larger before you take them out. Because the only part that we really need is about half of that from the top of the hill back to the west. I mean, that's up to y'all.
Well, I'll just speak to that if y'all don't mind. It's either or is where you're at on that timber. It's either cut it and sell it or leave it. Because they're not gonna come in there and cut just that little bit on top of that hill and not get the rest of it. I mean, it's gonna be an all or none, or is my feeling on it, and I've dealt with a lot of timber, is that small an area, they're gonna have to have it all, or they're probably not even gonna look at doing it. So that's kind of where you're at on that. So I think you're at and this board is at where we either just leave it alone and clear what you need, or we cut it all. That's just my feeling on it.
I agree with that, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I think what little bit I've learned about trees in the last little bit, seems like they will bring a little money. Would help out there.
And it won't hurt to send out, like Mr. Harris wants to send out the thing for doing what he wants to do with the grubbing of the stumps on part of it, cutting the timber on all of it. I mean, you can send out a proposal any way you want it, but I just think to get the full value out of it, you cut it all, clean up what you gotta have, and at some point decide you're gonna replant the rest of it or landscape it, whatever you wanna do with it. But at this point, I just say that you get the request for cutting it off.
And definitely, I think someone mentioned that envelope over there, I would definitely suggest contacting that person if they want to pull that bid back and resubmit the way we're asking it to be bid now.
Yeah, everyone that I spoke to, every name that I gave you and that y'all called, 3 of those 4 called me directly, and I told them all, bid it by the ton. That's the way if I got anything to do with it, that's the way we're gonna sell it. We're not doing a lump sum. Bid it by the ton, give us a per ton price on pulpwood, and give us a per ton price on chip and saw. There's a lot of chip and saw there, one of the largest crews that walked it. That's 20-plus-year-old trees. Anybody in timber business, sell it all. We're gonna find very few people, very few loggers that wanna come there and try to cut a 5-acre piece. And we're not gonna get paid as much for it if we give them 10 acres because of logistics. And cut it all. We pop the stumps on the front part where we need for the building. And, you know, this time next year, we address what the property's laid out for a year. If we want to replant, that'll be the time to replant. Or we just mow it, make it pasture and let the backstops rot, and we fence it and leave it in grass. I mean, we worry about that later on, because you can't do anything right behind a timber harvest anyway. It needs to lay out. So I'd say cut it all.
I think it all needs to go.
I mean, we don't want to leave pine trees for aesthetics anyway. It's just lightning rods.
So what you're saying, cut all that in the back too?
Just cut all the pine trees that are there and start back over.
Well, it would be a conflict of interest for me if I were to get involved in that. My brother-in-law's a logger.
Tell them come bid it.
No, I don't wanna do that.
So you can't just.
The oaks have to come out too. They're old nasty water oaks. They're
Yeah.
small and just nasty, and every bit of that garbage has to come out of there, because I'm sure that'll probably be where the septic tank and drain field is gonna need to go, is in that direction. So all of that'll really needs to go.
Are we doing this as a timber sale, Mr. Gravatt or Mr. Harris? Or are we doing a request?
We're gonna ask for bids on the timber. By the ton is fine with me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we'll send out, and then we'll have a separate one for the removal of the stumps out there. On
Needs a
about
timeline too.
On about half the property. Yeah, we'll have a timeline.
Yeah, because one of the loggers, we do need to shorten that up. I know there's a sense of urgency on this fire station building. One of the loggers said hey, I'm gonna give y'all a price, but I'm gonna need a 6-month removal. So that ain't gonna work. 6 months to come, he'll come pay you about, or he'll pay you, he needs 6 months to actually take it off. So I think we need to shorten that up, like Mr. Gravatt said, and say, hey, you got, how are we doing the bids? 2 weeks, whatever, but once the bids are open, you got 90 days to remove the wood, or something like that, so that we're not sitting there tied to a timber contract for 8 months waiting on them to cut it so we can start bulldozing stumps or whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
handful, Mr. Chairman, to add to that, some of the folks that I know that's in the land clearing business,
They're 3 and 6 months out
Yeah,
anyway,
at
but
least
our
6,
guys are
yeah.
gonna do some of that stuff, I think, but, I mean, we need to shorten up the harvest. If they win the bid, they got whatever number you need, but if you put it at 30, don't do that, because these guys got wood bought out. I mean, they know where they're going for the next 3 or 4 weeks, but you need to do at least 60 to 90 days.
How much time do you need, Mr. Harris?
Well, once my topo's done, I'm good for a while. So that's why I was trying to get that out of the way, because I know when they come in and destroy the place, it's gonna take a while to get it flattened back out. I would say probably 90 days is great from now. So we bid
And then we
for,
can get it cut in 90 days.
we bid for 30 days. We bid for 30 days, and by the time we open and get it back to the board, and, they'll have 60 days to get in line to get it done.
I would do your bid as short as you can, because I think that the price of wood, from what I'm hearing, is gonna be decreasing. So in order to get higher bids now, I wouldn't leave that bid window open any longer than we absolutely have to, because I think as time progresses, the price of timber is gonna decrease over the next 6 months is the forecast. So let's expedite the sale to capture a higher price market, is what I'm trying to say.
Our typical would be 30 days, just so that because you got a newspaper that doesn't get it out, and we send it over, we do demand
As quick as
startup.
we can do it and get it.
What's really gonna happen here is when we get it advertised, somebody's gonna get on the phone and call these people. I don't have any reason to believe that they're looking at Demand Star. So we're just gonna have to call them and say, hey, this is out to bid, can you take a look at
Between the
it?
5 of us, we can probably give you 10 names, 10 loggers in the area that.
So, we're gonna put it out for bid whatever time that takes. Are you gonna give them 90 days past that point once the bid's awarded, or are we just gonna do
If
60?
you wanna give them 90 days beyond that, you can. If you wanna give them.
I mean, will that work in your time frame? I mean, is there any
That works
rush?
for me. Yeah, that'll work for me.
I just think if you give them 90 days, it'd be a little better than 60 days as far as the timber.
To perform.
Yes, to perform.
I agree with that.
Okay, you got 2 responses now. You've got the guys with the trees, and then you've got the people that may do the grubbing with the stumps. So the tree guy has to get in there and get out sooner in order for all of this to be done in 90 days.
Well, I don't know if we, like he said, on the stump side, Mr. Chairman, respond to that, sir. If I understood this right, I mean, if we can get the trees cut, I believe, I don't know, on the stump removal, seems like everybody I've talked to, like you say, you're 3 to 6 months out. I mean, if it's something at that point that we have an excavator or something to go in there and clean that.
If we have
immediate area.
If we get to the point where we've got a plan that's ready to go, we can take an excavator out there and dig those stumps
Or
out.
immediate area, and then.
That's what I was saying before, was that we get a number. If we like the number, great. And if they can get in there and get it done sooner, that's even better. But if they cannot, or it's gonna be a significant delay, then we can say, okay, you know, we've got the equipment, we just go out there and do it ourselves.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I agree with, Chairman, Commissioner Hill. Mr. Brand asked how it was going, and you couldn't give him a definite answer. That could be a knock the next time we act or something. So I ready to move forward with it, and get it done, whatever it takes to make it work.
I think we're all in consensus. We're gonna, put out a proposal for whatever the shortest amount of time we can get it done in, and give them 90 days past the award point to, perform.
By the ton.
By the
By
ton.
the ton. So they all get the same.
Are we all in consensus on
No, they'll bid it, they'll give us a per ton,
Okay.
the
For each
one
one.
smaller, and they'll give us a per ton price, but per ton's the best way to do it, that way everybody bids it the same, and it'll be more favorable for everybody.
that? Mr. Harris, I think you have your consensus.
Yes, sir.
Move along, additional agenda items. Item number 1, authorization to waive right-of-way permit fees for installation of street lights at County Road 137 and US 90 by Florida Power and Light. Mr. Harris.
That one just kind of speaks for itself. It's one that we've been waiting on a long time for some improvements out there because of safety issues. And they contacted us, I think it was a week ago, and asked if they had to get a permit. And we said yes, unless the board waives the fee, so it's entirely up to you. You want to waive the fee?
So moved. Second.
A motion by Commissioner Land, a second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor? All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 2 is being pulled, I guess, for some,
It'll be brought back.
brief to be brought back. We'll now open it up to public concerns and comments. Anybody wishing to speak? Sir. Name and address for the record.
Wayne Yanko, 11883 93rd Road, Live Oak. I just wanted to come here and say thank you to this board for your support to get rid of the internet cafes in this county. I was flabbergasted that the city made a move to get rid of them last week. And in particular, thank you to Mr. Stapleton for his time and his effort to move this thing forward and get them out of here. My last thing is, I no longer represent American Patriots. I'm here as an individual. Sometimes groups just go in a different direction, and I feel it's better that I be as an individual. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop coming or asking you questions, but that's just, and I wish them all welcome what they do. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Wayne.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond.
Mr. Vince Smith sent a sheet on loud mufflers.
Yes, sir.
Name and address for the record, Mr. Smith, if you
Yes, sir.
don't
Can I
mind.
hand these to you or something?
Yes, sir.
They're 2 separate documents. Thank you, sir. My name is Vince Smith. I live at 9194 132nd Terrace out by Brim Pond. I'm here to bring to your attention, first off, I want to say I appreciate the business-like fashion that this board conducts itself in. I've sat in on others, and it's a horror show. And I really appreciate you guys, and I want you to know that. I'm not going to deliver verbatim what I had written up, but you have a copy of it. Basically, EPA laws started in 1972 to deal with people that would pull the guts out of mufflers and put straight pipes and those things on trucks and vehicles. Federal laws commenced then. Florida has laws, but some of the laws apparently were overturned by the Florida Supreme Court because they were too broad and discretionary, trying to deal with the loud music out of cars and mufflers. I'm here to speak solely to the muffler issue. Anybody that's been down on 129 or 90 or anywhere downtown knows what cranks up and blares through there. I'm not talking about annoyance stuff. I'm talking about outrageous stuff. And if you have those things across the street from your home, and that wakes you up and disturbs your sleep, it seems like the city can't do anything about it. And maybe the laws aren't clear, maybe the laws aren't specific, but we do have Florida statutes 316-272, exhaust systems, prevention of noise, and Florida statutes 316-293, motor vehicular noise. As you can see, the frustration has gotten to the point that I've written the governor, and I have copied the governor, the legislative leadership, our area representatives to that, and the respective committees in the state legislature. I would like to see something strengthened so that there's no doubt about the fact that we will deal with this loud muffler noise. Now, is this just an annoyance? Am I just picking on somebody? No. The feds have documented medical, physical, neurological damage that these noises cause some people. Not everybody, to others they're annoyance, but to other people they profoundly affect their sleep, their nervous systems, their anxieties, particularly so combat veterans, when you have those things cranking up right at you. And I think we are a caring community. I don't think we want to jeopardize people's health and ability to live in a peaceful community by allowing that. So that's kind of, summing up what I'm trying to say is there is medical evidence to this. It is not, the medications don't control this. The VA has lists of suicides and family dissolutions from these neurologically, medically impaired issues. They can't control it. They can't deal with it. It's an environmental issue. And I really would like to encourage you all to look at that, think about it, examine it, see if you can work with the city. I don't have a lot of confidence the city's going to move on anything. But I would really like to, foster some discussion and consideration of the issues. It's very, very harmful to people whose anxieties and stress levels and other things are affected by those. And I'm not talking about run-of-the-mill noises. I'm talking about someone that sounds like a Gatling gun going off. You got them downtown. Besides, anybody comes to see the flowers. You go scared right out of the community with those things.
Well, I can feel your pain. My teenage son had one, and we had to solve that issue too. So
I really would appreciate some help. I'm not speaking for myself. I'm speaking on behalf of others.
we appreciate.
I like them sometimes myself, but not in the city.
Appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Name and address for the record, please.
Maurice Perkins, 505 Fayette Avenue, Wildflower, Florida. Just want to say thank you to this board for all your acts of kindness during my time of loss. To appreciate you all, past president, Stapleton, and to Lane, and to each of you, Clemens, Harris, and to Sheriff. I thank you, appreciate reaching out to me and sending you a warm welcome in the prayers for me. I'm getting mending. Getting used to my new normal. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, move on to administrator comments and information. Mr. Harris, anything else?
The most bizarre thing has happened. I've been working for years trying to get that railroad crossing out there at the catalyst site completed. And we were given a deadline by at least one of the funding agencies of end of December of this year. And we have done everything in the world that we could do to make sure that we were finished with that project. Paving's completed, the striping, the sod, the drainage is finished and everything. I think we paid the railroad, it's been more than 2 years ago, to do their part of the crossing, which is the drop-in concrete pads and the cross arms and the signal box. And we get toward the end of the project, and a gentleman says that they need more time, that they don't have the materials yet. Well, we had a long conversation about that, and they finally agreed that they could get the materials there. So they started on a weekend, I think it may have been the weekend before this past, but in any event, you saw the news where the tornadoes went through Kentucky and Tennessee. A couple of the gentlemen, it's a small crew, they were working on our cross arms and our crossing out there, live in Kentucky and Tennessee, and had substantial damage to their homes. So they pulled off of our project, and it's sitting there. My hope is that in my conversations with one of those funding agencies, that because they want the whole project finished, even though we're not performing that work, I'm hoping that they won't penalize us because it's going to go beyond the end of December. But I needed to let you be aware that that's what's going on out there. It's still barricaded up. We can open it as soon as they finish putting the cross arms on. I think they're down to just some wiring and testing that's supposed to take 1 day. So I got an email from the representative of the railroad yesterday, I believe it was, so that we can send it on to the funding agency and make sure that we get our reimbursement, because we are holding the project over. But anyway, I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Anything else? Mr. Pratt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple items tonight. One, in dealing with the continuing saga of the opioid litigation. There have been 2 new types of settlements that have occurred, and they're all going to be, directed through the MDL and then through Florida and move forward. One of the settlements is with Jensen Company, and the other is with a number of different distributors. And so I need authorization from y'all that we will participate in those things as part of the Florida process, to be able to do that so that I can be authorized to sign the documents and send them back to them.
So what do you require from us?
Wave your hand, bless, and say,
Consensus?
I'm authorized to do so.
Good. Yes, sir. Think you have that, sir?
Okay. Secondly, the thing got mentioned briefly about redistricting. Redistricting, we've got the information is not around. The census data did came out late. I haven't seen it, moving forward. We're required by the Constitution to do districting in odd number of years. And in the year of the census, you typically have it done by December 31st and move forward. We haven't really had a real change in the population, just a small change. So at this particular point, to see whether or not we're actually affected, to be redistricted, which involves being able to look at the various statistics, not just numbers, but other demographic statistics, to be able to complete such a task, by the end of the year is impossible. It should have been started back in August. But what I suggest is is that because there's nothing blatant, sitting out there right now, that, we not do it in 2021, but wait until 2023. There are a lot of consultants that are out there that already have all of this information, and they actually can do all the demographic overlays, computerized and that type of thing. And they can come up with, one, whether or not you need to redistrict or not, and then two, can then, if they do, come up with some starting suggestions for a committee. I don't know who's on our committee, I don't know where, that is. So I just letting you all know and acknowledge and get y'all's consensus that, sometime next year, we'll hire a consultant to look at that data. And then if, we need to move forward, then at the beginning of, or, the very end of the year or the beginning of 2023, we, form that committee and get it all done. Therefore, we can comply with the odd year, part of the compliance. So just kind of let you know, that kind of thing.
Mr. Chairman,
Are you
in your
consensus
speeches to our
with-
local districts, when you're,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Yeah. There are several different redistricting, where your state legislative districts, but I'm talking about all just within your county districts. From our standpoint, the school board districts and the county districts, are the same. So I've spoken with the school board's attorney. He, feels the same way, that they weren't surprised because there wasn't any, real huge change in the population. It may be more internal of how we, and so it's going to take a lot more to be able to do that when the time comes. And again, talking with them, that when the time comes to be able to go to that consultant, we can probably, be able to look at them and say, okay, y'all want to throw in some on this to, move forward. But at this particular point, I really don't have anything, else, but get y'all's consensus that that's okay, and then that we'll try to look forward next year, so that I'll keep it in my, calendar to be able to, move forward with that. Whatever.
I'm good, as long as we look at it next year.
Yes. And just to add to what little bit of conversation I had with the representative, some of the counties that did look at doing it in the odd year, I would only assume whoever the company was that looked at it, a lot of them didn't have to do it, like you're saying, because there wasn't that big of a swing in population.
Yes, sir.
Or anything like that, but on his side, and our congressman's side, and our senator's side, that's all gonna be moved. Yeah, what little bit I seen on the map, everything's moving east. He'll go more towards, say, Jacksonville, so will Cinder Valley and Dunn's area, and then we'll have, it's coming across the river, if you will, and we'll be picked up by some of the folks from as far out, I've heard, as Port St. Lucie out there, some port, way out there on the coast somewhere, so. I don't know, y'all need to look at that. I asked him, was there anything we could do as far as sending a letter as the board? I also spoke to some of the guys on the school board as well that had some concerns, and he said it wouldn't hurt to write a letter and send it to legislation, but it's moving forward. I mean, the way I understand it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Hurst.
we actually received a copy of a letter that McCullough County sent complaining about this very issue. And it isn't an uncommon issue. I actually dealt with this years ago in another county. And in that county, we sued the state. At the end of the day, the state wins, because I think the ruling was essentially they can do whatever they want to do.
Yep.
But here's the problem. And you alluded to it, Commissioner Hale. You don't end up with representation. You end up with people that live 200 or 300 miles away that have no idea what's going on here. So a key point in that particular suit at the time, I don't remember what year it was an evaluation of the amount of funding, the allocations from the state allocations that hometown senators make sure that they try to get for their hometown. And same with representatives. And you compare that then to a county that they've got population of, like Suwannee County, that's 200 miles away or something, that the amount of funding that they ask for this county, very often there's a huge difference in the amount of money that they're requesting in state appropriations for the county that they live in. It's a big problem, and that's what Wakulla County was complaining about in this letter that I just received, may have been yesterday. But it's not an uncommon problem, especially for rural counties. They carve up the population, and there have been lots of arguments that very often in the legislature they're trying to preserve or ensure incumbents get reelected, and they just work these lines the way they have to try to guarantee that. I don't know if that's a fact, but I do know that it can affect counties financially when it comes to state appropriations requests.
Anybody else?
Okay, mine had to do only with the inside the county redistricting,
And you want to look at this when again?
middle of next year, so we can get it done.
I think you have consensus on that. Everybody in agreement?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That it, Mr. Prevet?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fleming?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to hope and pray that everybody have a great Merry Christmas and a safe, Happy New Year into the new year. The last couple of years have been devastating. You can't change that. But we're looking forward for 2022 to be a better time for us. I want to thank our county staff for a job well done this year. And look back there at the fire chief, the sheriff, Parks and Rec, economic director, county department, what you've done a great job, and we haven't fell short. And in spite of what we've been dealing with, it's been great. And to my fellow commissioners, I would like to wish you Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and your family, to extend a heartfelt welcome. That we have a blessed Christmas and Happy New Year. In the end, I know, and I also want to say this last, and I don't want to get choked up, but I'm glad to see Mr. Perkins here tonight. He and I have a close bond, very close bond, like brothers. The family look like brothers. And his hurt is my hurt. His loss is my loss. And I'm glad to see him come up tonight and thank us for what, for the board done, presenting for our term, and appreciate that. Chairman, before I go any further and stop fumbling and bumbling, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. Mr. Paper?
Yes, sir, thank you, Mr. Chairman, got a couple of things real quick. First thing, just to follow up with the meeting the city had about working towards the closure of the casinos. I was grateful for that. I would just like to follow up Mr. Pravat real quick. I had asked him to have a conversation with legal counsel from the city on the board's behalf. I kind of spoke for y'all gentlemen. I feel like we had consensus, so I asked Mr. Pravat to reach out to him and see if we could move together in this. Mr. Pravat, you had a conversation?
Yes, sir. I did speak with Mr. Coblon, city attorney, as we move forward after the last meeting, we've already gotten together and I know, or at least thought I understood the direction y'all wanted to be able to go, and we've already put together a draft of the language to be able to move forward in that direction. And the timing on this thing would be basically in January. They're going to be moving in, they have different notice requirements than we do, but we're trying to coordinate, through council, coordinate, the similar language, so it won't be somebody arguing in the city versus, in the county over definitions and that type of thing. So some of those things will change from what we did in our little setting time, ordinance and stuff like that. But we're moving forward to be able to do that, and it should all be finished by February.
Thank you, sir. Just follow up, I would like to, as Commissioner Fleming said, spoke to Mr. Perkins, thoughts and prayers continue to be with you, my friend. If I had any wishes for everyone that's here this evening, it's for this holiday season is, if anyone has a question, you can go talk to Mr. Perkins. Tomorrow's not promised. You need to love your family, your friends, and we're going to take care of business, and we're going to have problems, but at the end of the day, it's family first, and everybody on this board realizes that, and I don't want anybody, I'll just leave you with this, but we'll go into the new year. I don't want anybody to read too much into Commissioner Land and Mr. Harris. They got each other Christmas cookies for the holidays.
Amen on that. I would echo what both of those two commissioners on the other end down there said. I mean, the holidays are a time for family be close, and I would ask everybody to remember those that have lost loved ones over this past year, like Mr. Perkins. It's a good time for all of us, but it's a tough time for a few. And pray for those folks. Do something kind for someone that's less fortunate than yourselves, and that's what I try to do for others. And I mean, we're all blessed here, but some folks are not. And continue praying for the White family and Commissioner White's mother and her health during this time. And just wish everybody a Merry Christmas, but don't forget the reason for the season is the birth of Christ. It's not about Christmas and Santa Claus. Just celebrating the birth of our Savior. That's all I got.
Commissioner Hill.
You took the words out of my mouth. I just wanted to make sure we understood, and I know we do, and everyone here in our community does, but it is the birth of Jesus. And that's the reason that we have what we have today, our salvation, by His grace and mercy. Commissioner Fleming hit on it, and I'm going to say it again, our staff, and I mean from the truck drivers to the road graders, to the people that make us look good day in and day out. I mean, we're not out there on the end of a shovel or a chainsaw or anything else. And I don't know her name, but the young lady that cleans the buildings right over here, our little office where we pick up our stuff. I don't know if she scared me more, or I scared her more walking in there, but she's about this tall, but she looked like a grizzly bear. That night I stepped in there, it scared me to death, and I scared her, but
I won't tell her you said she looked like
I'm just saying, at that moment, it could have been anything. I just thought I was dead, that's all. But she scared me, I scared her, and really apologized, but got out of there. I don't know her name. I mean, it was, both of them were trying to catch her breath. But anyhow, I appreciate every one of them and our staff. And I want to say, I appreciate our staff sticking with us. Speaking to obviously people in our industry and things we do and other municipalities, they've lost a lot of guys. A lot of folks left for, private sector, things of that nature. I don't know what our ratio is, but I mean, I see a lot of the same folks there, and I want to appreciate them sticking with us through these times and taking care of the people's business. That's why we come. So, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll just be brief. I guess it was a week ago, me and Mr. Norris went out to Bender Holtz and met with the folks out there, and they're coming along quite well, and are wanting to start on an office building out there, their headquarters, I guess it's gonna be, and it's about a 22,500 square foot office building. And they're also looking at putting in a new log line, and it's quite expensive, in the millions to get it done, and that'll bring them up to about 95% efficiency out there, and create more jobs and more shifts out there. So I just kind of want to bring everybody up to staff up to speed on it, and just thank them for coming here and investing in our community and giving jobs for our people, and it's been a blessing. And we just want to let everybody know, and also let them know we appreciate them. Also, I'd like to just wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and thank you for all your prayers. It's working. My mom's doing a lot better. She's up and walking, and it was touch and go for a while, but she is doing better now, and I want to thank all of you for that. Thank you. So with that, just a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Glad to see all of you, and we'll see you next time. Could I get a motion to dismiss?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hale, second by Commissioner Land. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.